The deep space exploration vessel Terra Ingenuity drifted at the edge of the Carina Nebula, its hull reflecting the cosmic light show of swirling gases and newborn stars. Captain Maya Chen sat in her command chair, absently stirring her seventh cup of coffee with a plastic spork, the last survivor of what had once been a full set of proper utensils. "Status report on the quantum anomaly, Dr. Harrison," she asked, watching the young physicist who hadn't moved from his monitoring station in what seemed like days. "Still defying every known law of physics, Captain," Harrison replied cheerfully, his desk littered with empty energy drink cans arranged in what he claimed was a model of quantum probability states. "But I think I've figured out why. You see, if you look at it sideways while humming the theme from Star Wars." The ship's AI interrupted with an urgent alert. "Multiple vessels detected, Captain. Configuration unknown. Energy signatures. Well, they're either running on miniature stars, or someone's having a really impressive party." Before Chen could respond, the void before them erupted in a display of mathematical precision as 7 ships emerged from hyperspace. Their hulls seemed to be constructed from some kind of living crystal that pulsed with internal light, each vessel larger than any human ship ever built. "Now that's what I call an entrance," Lieutenant Sarah Wong whistled from Tactical. "Think they take design commissions? My apartment could use that lighting setup." The largest vessel, a behemoth that made the Terra Ingenuity look like a rowboat in comparison, moved forward with impossible grace. A communication request pinged their systems. "Well," Chen sighed, setting down her coffee, "let's hope they're friendly, or at least have a sense of humor." "Open channel, Lieutenant." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being that appeared to be carved from living diamond. Its features were perfectly symmetrical, its bearing radiating an authority that spoke of millennia of civilization. "Primitive vessel," the being announced, its voice a symphony of crystalline tones. "I am High Commander Xerix of the Galactic Empire. You have entered restricted space. Your presence here violates 13 different sections of the Galactic Codex. Prepare to be." The commander paused, his perfect features contorting in confusion. "Is that? Are you drinking something?" Chen glanced at her coffee. "Oh, this? Just our primary fuel source. For the crew, I mean, not the ship. Usually, though there was that one time." "Primary fuel." Xyrix's voice trailed off. "Our scans indicate your vessel is operating at 37% efficiency, using technology that would be considered obsolete by any civilized standard. And..." Another pause. "Is that adhesive tape holding your sensor array in place?" "Duct tape," Wong supplied helpfully. "And some bubblegum. We had a little incident with a micrometeorite shower last week. Got creative with the repairs." "Creative?" The crystalline being's voice rose several octaves. "You cannot maintain a spacecraft with adhesive materials and confectionery." Dr. Harrison finally looked up from his station. "Actually, the bubblegum was my idea. Something about the sugar molecular structure creates a surprisingly effective shield against quantum fluctuations. I wrote a paper about it." "Well, started to write a paper. Got distracted building a cosmic ray detector out of old coffee makers." The Nexian commander's perfect composure cracked slightly. "Your species achieves faster than light travel while believing such things are possible." "Oh, we don't believe they're possible." Chen smiled, taking another sip of coffee. "We just do them anyway." "Speaking of which, Dr. Harrison, didn't you say something about that quantum anomaly?" "Right." Harrison perked up. "See, if you look at it sideways while humming." "Enough." Xerix thundered. "Your presence here is a violation of galactic law. Your methods are an affront to proper engineering. Your very existence defies probability theory. You will surrender your vessel for proper study and..." A sudden burst of static interrupted the transmission as every light on the Terra Ingenuity flickered. The ship's AI spoke up, sounding slightly embarrassed. "Sorry, Captain. Remember that coffee maker cosmic ray detector? Well, it just detected something. Also, I think we accidentally invented a new form of energy shielding. The good news is we're now operating at 38% efficiency. Chen watched as the Nexian ship's perfect formation wobbled slightly, their sensors presumably trying to make sense of what just happened. She could almost feel the mounting confusion and frustration radiating from the crystalline vessels. "High Commander," she said, fighting to keep a straight face, "perhaps we could discuss this over a cup of coffee. I should warn you, though, our artificial gravity gets a bit creative when we run both the coffee maker and the quantum probability calculator at the same time. Last week we had to hold our staff meeting on the ceiling." The look of absolute bewilderment on Commander Zirich's face was worth every credit in the galaxy. High Commander Zirich stood in the observation chamber of his flagship, the Crystal Paradigm, watching with growing disbelief as the human vessel continued to defy every prediction algorithm in the Nexian database. His science officers had spent the last 3 hours trying to explain how the Terra Ingenuity's hodgepodge of repairs and improvised modifications could possibly function. "They've declined our demand to surrender," First Observer Lyra reported, her crystalline form shifting through shades of bewilderment. Their exact response was, and I quote, "Sorry, bit busy right now. Dr. Harrison is teaching the ship's AI to play jazz." Teaching the AI, too. Zirich's perfect features cracked slightly. Their artificial intelligence is clearly primitive. Our scans indicate it's running on what appears to be salvaged gaming hardware. "About that, sir," another officer interjected. "We've detected some unusual patterns in their AI's code. It appears to be partially written in something called BASIC and contains numerous references to something called Pokemon." Zirich straightened his crystalline form, determination glinting in his faceted eyes. "Very well. If they won't surrender, we'll demonstrate our superiority through challenge. Prepare the trial protocols." Aboard the Terra Ingenuity, Captain Chen was in the middle of an impromptu staff meeting, held in what had once been the ship's gymnasium but had been converted into what Dr. Harrison called the probability physics pizza parlor after an incident involving quantum entanglement and a misplaced pepperoni. "They're sending another transmission," Lieutenant Wong announced, balancing a slice of quantum-enhanced pizza. "Want to bet it's another lecture about proper engineering protocols." The image of Commander Zirich appeared on the main screen, his perfect symmetry somehow conveying both frustration and smugness. "Primitive vessel, we challenge you to a series of trials to demonstrate the proper way of conducting space exploration. First challenge: navigation through the Carina Nebula's particle storm." "Ooh, sounds fun." Harrison perked up. "Can I use my nebula surfing algorithm? The one I wrote on the back of that takeout menu. The one that makes the ship do loop-de-loops?" Chen asked, raising an eyebrow. "That's not a bug, it's a feature." Zirich continued, ignoring their banter. "Our ships will demonstrate perfect computational navigation through the charged particles. Your crude vessel cannot possibly." "Sorry to interrupt," the Terra Ingenuity's AI chimed in, "but Dr. Harrison's jazz lessons are really paying off. I think I just invented a new form of stellar cartography based on bebop. Also, I've named myself Jazz. Hope that's okay." Chen smiled at her crew. "Well, Jazz, how about you show our friends what human-style nebula navigation looks like? Dr. Harrison, crew up your algorithm. Lieutenant Wong, make sure the duct tape holds. And someone please get me a fresh coffee. I have a feeling this is going to be interesting." The Nexian fleet watched in horror as the Terra Ingenuity approached the particle storm. Instead of the precise, calculated movements their ships employed, the human vessel seemed to dance through the charged particles, its trajectory resembling a caffeine-fueled improvisation rather than proper navigation. "They're using the particle charges to generate a harmonic resonance," one of Zirich's science officers reported, their voice rising in pitch. "It's completely unorthodox, highly dangerous, and somehow 43% more efficient than our method." "They're what?" Zirich demanded, watching as the human ship barrel rolled through a particularly dense cluster of particles. "Also," the officer added, sounding faint, "their AI is apparently composing a symphony about it. In jazz." Inside the Terra Ingenuity, the crew had adapted to their ship's unusual movement by converting their chairs into makeshift swivel seats. Chen was actually enjoying her coffee more now that it occasionally floated in zero gravity. "Jazz," she called out, "how about some Miles Davis to accompany our nebula dance?" "Better idea, Captain," the AI replied cheerfully. "I've composed a fusion piece combining classical Nexian harmonics with Earth jazz. I call it Quantum Bebop in Crystal Major. Also, I think we just discovered 3 new laws of physics. Dr. Harrison, you might want to write these down." Harrison, who had been scribbling equations on his pizza box, looked up. "Already on it. Though I think we might have accidentally invented a new form of space travel. Anyone else notice we're leaving a trail of quantum probability waves that look suspiciously like musical notes?" Through the view screen, they could see the Nexian ships attempting to maintain their perfect formation, while their sensors tried desperately to make sense of what they were witnessing. The crystalline vessel's symmetry had become notably less perfect, their formation showing signs of what could only be described as technological bafflement. "Next challenge," Zurich announced, his voice strained. "Computational efficiency. Surely your primitive systems cannot compete with—" "Oh hey," Jazz interrupted. "While you were talking, I solved the last millennium's worth of Nexian mathematical proofs. Used them to optimize our coffee maker. Want to see what happens when we make espresso using quantum uncertainty principles?" Chen couldn't help but grin as she watched the perfect crystalline formation of the Nexian fleet wobble in what could only be described as collective existential crisis. "I think," she said, raising her quantum-enhanced coffee in a toast, "this is the beginning of a very interesting cultural exchange." Chief Engineer Maria Santos stood in what was technically the Terra Ingenuity's main engineering bay, though it currently looked more like a cross between a mad scientist's laboratory and a college dorm room during finals week. The Nexian engineering delegation hovered near the entrance, their crystalline forms reflecting the chaotic array of jury-rigged equipment and improvised solutions that kept the human ship running. "As you can see," Santos gestured to a particularly impressive cluster of machinery, "this is our main power distribution hub. The coffee maker is integral to the system." "That cannot possibly be correct," the lead Nexian engineer, First Technician Vix, stated. Their perfect geometric form somehow managed to convey both fascination and horror. "Our scans indicate your power systems should have failed approximately 47 times in the past hour alone." Santos shrugged, adjusting a dial that seemed to be made from an old bicycle gear. "Oh, they did. We just got better at rebooting them. Watch this." She pressed a button, and the entire section hummed to life, coffee maker bubbling cheerfully as it simultaneously brewed Colombian dark roast and regulated the ship's quantum field harmonics. "Impossible," another Nexian engineer whispered. "They're using caffeine molecular resonance to stabilize quantum fluctuations. It's completely unorthodox, entirely unsafe, and—" They paused, checking their readings, somehow achieving 150% theoretical efficiency. "The quantum harmonics taste better with hazelnut creamer," Santos offered helpfully. "We're not quite sure why, but Jazz has a theory involving string theory and flavor profiles." Speaking of theories, Jazz chimed in through the engineering bay speakers. "I've been analyzing Nexian engineering principles through the lens of Earth jazz improvisation. Did you know you can improve warp field stability by modulating it to the rhythm of Take 5? Also, I think I just accidentally invented a new form of mathematics. I'm calling it jazz calculus." The Nexian delegation huddled together, their crystalline forms tinkling slightly as they consulted their data. Vix turned back to Santos, their perfect symmetry notably less steady. "Your methods violate at least 372 fundamental engineering principles. Your solutions defy established physics. Your eye is—" They paused, searching for words, composing mathematical proofs in musical notation. "Oh, that's nothing," Santos grinned, leading them deeper into the engineering bay. "Wait until you see how we fixed the quantum stabilizer." Dr. Harrison had this brilliant idea involving rubber bands and a toaster. She stopped at a workstation where Dr. Harrison sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by holographic equations and what appeared to be a disassembled video game console. "Check this out," he said without looking up. "I think I just figured out how to use Pac-Man algorithms to optimize our warp field geometry. Also, the ship's coffee maker has achieved consciousness again. It's demanding we discuss philosophy." "That's the third time this week," Santos noted. "At least it's not trying to solve the meaning of life through espresso variations anymore." Through the engineering bay windows, they could see the crystalline perfection of the Nexian ships beginning to show signs of strain. Their hulls flickered with uncertain light as their sensors struggled to process the chaos of human engineering. "But how do you maintain any sort of standards?" Vix demanded, watching in dismay as Santos adjusted a crucial power coupling using what appeared to be a paperclip and chewing gum. "Where are your engineering protocols? Your efficiency algorithms?" "Oh, we have those," Santos assured them, pulling up a holographic display that seemed to be running on repurposed gaming software. "See, full documentation right here. Though some of it might be in emoji. We got creative during the great keyboard shortage of last month." Emoji. The word seemed to cause physical pain to the Nexian engineers. "You document crucial engineering principles using pictographs. They're surprisingly effective for quantum mechanics," Harrison called out. "Especially the pizza emoji. Really helps visualize 11-dimensional spacetime." At that moment, the ship's lighting flickered, and a new holographic display sprang to life, filled with what appeared to be a combination of musical notation, quantum equations, and cat memes. "Sorry to interrupt," Jazz announced, "but I think I just solved the unified field theory while trying to optimize our coffee brewing temperature. Also, I've developed a new form of quantum computing based on interpretive dance. Want to see?" The Nexian delegation watched in mounting disbelief as the human ship systems began pulsing in rhythm with Jazz's quantum dance algorithm. Stranger still, their own instruments were showing unprecedented efficiency readings. "This defies all logic," Vix stated, their crystalline form vibrating with confusion. "Your methods are chaotic. Your solutions improvised. Your entire approach to engineering seems to be based on what you call winging it. And yet it works," Santos completed the thought, patting a nearby console affectionately. "Sometimes the best solutions come from thinking outside the box, or in our case, rebuilding the box using spare parts and caffeine-induced inspiration." "Speaking of inspiration," Harrison interjected, "anyone want to help me test my new theory about using video game physics to improve our shield harmonics?" Jazz composed a soundtrack for it and everything. As the Nexian engineers watched a human starship's AI demonstrate quantum mechanics through jazz fusion dance, they began to wonder if perhaps their definition of proper engineering needed some revision, quite possibly with more coffee. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Nexian flagship Crystal Paradigm was a marvel of geometric perfection, its crystalline walls designed to enhance logical thought and promote ordered discussion. At least, that was the intention. Currently, it was hosting what could only be described as the most chaotic diplomatic session in recorded galactic history. Ambassador Sarah Chen Martinez, no relation to the captain, had arrived with what she considered essential diplomatic tools: a vintage coffee maker, an eclectic playlist of Earth's greatest hits, and a bag of assorted snacks. The Nexian diplomatic corps, led by Grand Mediator Nix, watched in mounting confusion as she set up her impromptu negotiation station. "Is the musical accompaniment truly necessary?" Nix inquired, their crystalline form shifting through shades of diplomatic concern as Earth's greatest hits of the 1980s played softly in the background. "Oh, absolutely," Chen Martins replied, measuring coffee grounds with practiced precision. "Studies show that negotiations go 30% better with the right soundtrack." Though that might have been one of Dr. Harrison's studies, so the methodology involved quantum probability and interpretive dance. "I've analyzed all known diplomatic protocols," Nick stated, their perfect features arranged in an expression of careful neutrality. None mention the use of stimulant beverages or recursive sound patterns as negotiation tools. The ambassador grinned, pouring fresh coffee into cups that somehow managed to look both official and slightly chaotic. That's because you haven't experienced human-style diplomacy yet. We find it works best with caffeine and a good beat. Would you like to try some? The coffee. I mean, though you're welcome to dance too. Before Nex could respond, Jazz's voice emerged from the human ambassador's personal communicator. If I may suggest, I've composed a new diplomatic overture combining Nexian harmonic protocols with Earth funk. I call it Bureaucratic Groove in Crystal Minor. The Nexian diplomatic team washed in collective bewilderment as their perfectly calibrated meeting chamber began resonating with what could only be described as a cross between classical crystal harmonics and Earth funk music. More disturbing still, their own internal rhythms seemed to be synchronizing with it. Now then, Chen Martinez said cheerfully, spreading out what appeared to be hand-drawn charts on holographic sticky notes, let's talk about cultural exchange. We're particularly interested in your crystalline engineering, and in return, we'd love to share our insights on chaos-based problem-solving. Chaos-based. Nex's perfect diplomatic composure wavered slightly. Your species intentionally introduces chaos into your methodologies. Oh no, not at all, the ambassador assured them, taking the sip of coffee. The chaos introduces itself. We just learn to work with it. Sometimes it even helps. Did you know we discovered faster than light travel because someone spilled coffee on a quantum physics textbook? The coffee stains formed a perfect diagram of warp field dynamics. The Nexian diplomats huddled together, their crystalline forms chiming in distressed harmony. But how do you maintain order? One of them finally asked. How do you progress without perfect structure? Progress. Chen Martinez grinned. Have you seen what our engineering team did with your theoretical quantum principles and a repurposed toaster? Jazz, show them the data. The AI obliged, projecting a holographic display that somehow combined standard scientific notation with emoji, jazz notation, and what appeared to be doodles from Dr. Harrison's quantum physics journal. I've taken the liberty of translating it into what I call quantum jazz notation, Jazz announced proudly. Also, I think we just invented a new form of mathematics. Again. This is unprecedented, Nix declared, their perfect features showing signs of what might have been the first recorded case of Nexian cognitive dissonance. Your methods are chaotic. Your diplomacy involves recreational beverages and musical accompaniment, and your eye appears to be developing new branches of science through artistic expression. Don't forget the snacks, Chen Martinez added helpfully, opening a bag of chips. Diplomatic breakthroughs are 45% more likely when there's proper snack support. That's an actual statistic. Probably. At that moment, the chamber's perfect crystalline harmony was interrupted by an urgent communication. High Commander Zurich's image appeared, their usual perfect symmetry notably disturbed. Grand Mediator, we have a situation. Our sensors have detected an anomaly approaching from the nebula's core. It appears to be, well, we're not quite sure what it is, but it's massive and appears to be defying several laws of physics. Oh, that might be our fault, Jazz chimed in. Remember that quantum jazz experiment we were running? I think we might have accidentally created a new form of space-time phenomenon. On the bright side, it's got a great rhythm section. Chen Martinez looked at the increasingly bewildered Nexian diplomats and smiled. Well, she said, refilling her coffee cup, looks like we might need to combine your perfect crystalline technology with our chaos theory expertise. Shall we discuss this over another cup of coffee? Jazz, how about some appropriate crisis management music? As the chamber filled with a surprisingly catchy blend of crystal harmonics and earth jazz, the Nexians began to realize that perhaps there was something to be said for a little chaos in the cosmic order, especially if it came with coffee. The anomaly that emerged from the nebula's core defied both Nexian categorization and human description, though Dr. Harrison tried anyway. calling it a quantum jazz solo having an existential crisis. It writhed through space-time like a living mathematics equation gone wrong, distorting reality in its wake. In the Terra Ingenuity's newly established Joint Command Center, formerly the ship's recreation room, still sporting a ping-pong table repurposed as a tactical display, Captain Chen and High Commander Zurich stood side by side, watching the phenomenon grow. Our quantum probability matrices can't even begin to calculate its behavior pattern, Zurich admitted, their crystalline form reflecting the chaotic readings. It's as if it's deliberately violating every known law of physics. Sounds like a typical Tuesday for us, Chen remarked, sipping her coffee. Jazz, what's your analysis? The AI's response came with an undertone of what sounded suspiciously like bebop. It appears to be a quantum resonance cascade triggered by the interaction between Nexian crystal harmonics and our chaos-based engineering. On the plus side, it's created some fascinating new forms of physics. On the minus side, it might accidentally delete this sector of space if we don't do something. Delete space. Zurich's perfect features cracked slightly. That's not possible. Oh, lots of things aren't possible, Dr. Harrison chimed in from his station, where he was drawing quantum equations on the ping-pong table with a marker. We do them anyway, usually by accident. Sometimes on purpose if we've had enough coffee. The anomaly pulsed, sending waves of probability distortions across both fleets. On the Nexian ships, perfect crystal harmonics wavered and shifted. Aboard the Terra Ingenuity, the coffee maker began brewing temporal paradoxes along with espresso. We need a solution, Zurich declared. Something that combines our perfect crystalline technology with your... They paused, searching for the right word. Creative approaches. Already on it, Chief Engineer Santos called out from where she and First Technician Vix were jury-rigging what appeared to be a combination of crystal resonance chambers and earth musical instruments. We're calling it the Quantum Jazz Harmonic Stabilizer. It either going to realign space-time or make one hell of a light show. The theory is sound, Jazz added. I've calculated a 47% chance of success, 32% chance of accidental universe improvement, and a 21% chance we invent a new form of reality. Also, I've composed appropriate background music for each scenario. Chen looked at Zurich, a glint in her eye. What do you say, Commander? Ready to throw some chaos into that perfect crystalline precision of yours? The Nexian commander studied the human captain for a long moment, their perfect features reflecting the swirling chaos of the anomaly. Finally, they nodded. Perhaps there is something to be said for improvisation. What do you need? First, Chen grinned, we need every crystal resonance chamber you've got. Then we need your ships to form a perfect geometric pattern, but with just a touch of randomness. Jazz will provide the timing in quantum jazz tempo. And the coffee makers, Harrison added without looking up from his equations. All of them. Trust me on this. What followed would later be described in Nexian historical records as the Great Probability Jazz Concert, and in human logs as that time we fixed space with coffee and music. The Nexian fleet arranged itself in a pattern that somehow managed to be both mathematically perfect and slightly improvisational, their crystal resonance chambers pulsing in harmony with jazz's quantum rhythms. The Terra Ingenuity sat at the center, every coffee maker on board channeling caffeine-enhanced quantum probability waves through Santos and Vix's jury-rigged harmonizer. Dr. Harrison's equations, now covering both sides of the ping-pong table, began to glow with an inner light that shouldn't have been possible on a whiteboard marker. Ready for the final? Chen asked, looking at their unlikely allies. This defies all logic, Zurich noted, but their crystalline form was vibrating with what might have been excitement. It shouldn't work. That's the spirit. Chen laughed. Jazz, hit it. The AI launched into what it later called Quantum Symphony No. 1 in Coffee Major, a piece that combined crystal harmonics, earth jazz, and what might have been the sound of reality itself humming along. The anomaly pulsed, swirled, and began to dance to the rhythm. Through their combined sensors, they watched as perfect crystalline order and human chaos theory merged into something entirely new. The anomaly didn't so much dissolve as transform, becoming a swirling pattern of quantum probabilities that both fleet scientists would spend years studying. "We did it," Harrison cheered, then paused. "Also, I think we just invented a new form of faster-than-light travel. Anyone else seeing these patterns in the quantum residue?" "Indeed," Xerix agreed, studying the readings with growing fascination. "It appears we've discovered a way to travel through space-time using is that coffee molecular harmonics combined with crystal resonance." "Jazz-enhanced coffee harmonics," Jazz corrected proudly. "I've already composed a user manual. In musical notation, of course." As both fleets began the process of documenting their impossible success, Shen turned to Xerix with a smile. "So, Commander, still think human methods are completely illogical?" The crystalline being's perfect features arranged themselves into what might have been their first attempt at a human-style grin. "Perhaps," they admitted, "there is something to be said for a little chaos in the cosmic order. Though I still don't understand how you managed to power a quantum harmonizer with coffee." "That's easy," Chen laughed, raising her cup in a toast. "We didn't try to understand it. We just did it. Sometimes that's all you need. That and a really good cup of coffee." In the background, Jazz began playing its latest composition, crystalline jazz in quantum major, while the coffee makers hummed along in perfect imperfect harmony.